there, and welcome to the world of Apocalypse Now. I'm Professor Redwood, but everyone calls me the Pokemon Professor. Well, that's enough about me. Why don't you tell me about yourself? Are you a boy, or a girl, or non-binary, or gender fluid?
Can I be Yasna Colin? I just want to be the most competent person in the room.
Of course!
Hell yeah.
Can you also tell me your name? What a wonderful name! Now, allow me to introduce you to your best friends.
Hi, I'm David, and I am playing your Game Master, or as I think it's called in Pokemon, your Arceus? I'm not sure.
Hi, I'm Duffy. I will be playing Azrael. I am a feral with a bit of an axe to grind.
Hey everyone, my name's Adam. You may remember me as having played the role of Darts, but for today's purposes, I'm now Chomper, a mutant with a bit of a chip on his shoulder and a nasty facial deformity.
Hi, I'm Vlad, and you may remember me as playing Charlotte Fuduciel, but for now, I will be playing Lux, a Pokemon trainer who, well, I've decided to take over the world.
I haven't quite made it to my destination yet, and I'm afraid it will be a while still. However, I'm at least on the right continent. After talking my way out of a threesome with Mr. Go-Goat and Miss Miltank, I managed to sneak my way into Unova. This place really does bring back memories. I haven't been back since that summer I spent as a roadie for Rage Against the Aggron. It was just 2 years ago now, actually. Time does tend to fly when you've had that many hallucinogens. I can't help but think of it as a boon, however. It gives me time to think about what I am going to say when I meet my old friend again. At the very least, I'm going to have to ask her to be my friend again. I did leave things rather messily between us. But enough about that. I'll have to figure out a path through these conflicting emotions on my own. In our last batch of recordings, the group made its way back from their successful assault on the bandits who raided their home. After some difficulties with the cart and a mutant two-headed Ekans, the gang made it back to Del Mai's Ridge. There, they recuperated and advanced their own interests. Azrael continued his search for Tycho, Chomper sought information on anything that might be able to undo his mutation, and Lux began her search for another Pokemon to add to her team. Her efforts didn't get her a new Pokemon yet, but they did yield an interesting bit of information. A Poké Ball factory has been uncovered in the dunes area of the wasteland. After conferring with Ginormous and finding out that he had been informed of a town with a gym that had been uncovered in the complete opposite direction, the team made a plan. They would head towards the Poké Ball factory first to add to their supplies and hopefully get Chomper and Azrael Pokemon of their own. If they are successful, they'll head towards the gym next. It seems amazing to me that society could have sprung up with such rapidity so quickly after the fall of our world, and yet there are merchant caravans and organizations in place to guard them, such as this Steel Legion. The geography of this place is something that has begun to interest me. I don't think I can quite match it anywhere I can think of off the top of my head. So I will have to ask you, my audience, to see if you can decipher the location of these events from the descriptions of the environment. For now, however, let us go forward into the next batch of recordings and see if there aren't any answers that we may be able to find in Episode 3 of Apocalypse Now.
I believe you guys were about to set out to have a look around the old Pokeball factory in Team Yell's territory, if I remember right. Was there anything else you guys wanted to do before you set out?
Just make the same kind of preparations that we did when we left last time. Food, water, whatever, just like general provisions, and grab some Pokemon berries.
Yes, if everyone can give me a trek roll, please. Devil's bargain for this would be an enemy sees where you're going.
I'm not going to take it.
I think I'm good as well.
I, as the person in most danger because I have no pips in this, am good with taking just a straight roll.
Alright, gotcha.
Azrael got a 5.
Lux got a 4.
Chomper got a 5.
Yeah, so a minor complication occurs. Yeah, so what happens is you guys stop by the farm of Old Man Lebdelev, who is a grumpig farmer that you guys have on occasion bought bacon from. You are passing by his house when you notice that it is dark. There are no lights inside, which is not unusual for this time of day. But what is unusual is that Lebdelev is not in the fields or tending to the grumpig sty either. And as you get closer, you see that the sty where he keeps his grumpig is almost empty. The walls are still intact and the gate is closed, but neither the grumpig nor the farmer are inside. Instead is just a single gigantic grumpig. This is maybe so the typical weight for them is 157 pounds, 157.6. This one, you would guess, is easily 5 times that, and it's correspondingly big enough to carry that weight. Unlike other grumpig, which usually stand on their hind legs, this one is clearly too massive for its legs to support it, so it is simply sprawled across the floor of the grumpig sty, and as you get a little bit closer yet, you can see that there are dozens and dozens of well-chewed grumpig bones scattered throughout the sty, as well as one bone which stands out for being somewhat longer and differently shaped from the others. And after a moment, you recognize that it is a human femur.
Guys, I don't want to alarm you. I think that grumpig ate Mr. Lev.
Well, I guess that means no more bacon.
I feel like we could get a lot out of that guy.
Correction then. No more renewable source for bacon.
Mr. Lev, if you could hear us from within the belly of the beast, press your face up against the stomach and, I don't know, make an indentation with your face.
We have your leg out here.
You are very optimistic.
When you yell out, the grumpig rolls over onto its belly and starts crawling towards the gate of the sty, and you suddenly realize that the lock to this grumpig sty was meant to keep normal grumpig in. It's less that they couldn't break it, as that they typically wouldn't try, and you realize that this lock is flimsy enough that if this thing makes the slightest attempt to get out of this sty, then it easily will. And it is heading right for you.
Look at it come. It's trying its best, just sort of inching along.
Azrael crosses his arms and just gives a look over to Lux and is after you.
Yes, let me try something. Fennekin, come here. Fen! And Fennekin, who has been walking beside us this whole time, steps up next to Lux, who bends down to speak to her. It's a psychic type, girl. See if you can talk to it mind to mind. And I'm going to see if Fennekin can use its psychic powers to try and communicate with this grumpig.
I mean, you have a rifle, I have swords, and we have a chemically addicted venomous pile.
So this would actually be read.
Okay, that is a 6 on the read roll.
So, where are you standing relative to Fennekin?
Lux is standing right behind Fennekin in, traditional trainer behind Pokemon position.
So Fennekin's little antenna extends out, and you can see it trying to connect to this grumpig, and after an amount of time that you would normally expect such a connection to take, Fennekin turns around and runs behind you and takes your pant leg in in its mouth and starts tugging at you like, we need to get away from here now, as the Grumpig effortlessly just, like, pushes the solid steel gate off of its hinges. The Grumpig does hesitate for a moment after it smashes through the gate, but clearly whatever communication Fennekin made with it has severely distressed it.
Guys, what if we just let it follow us home? It moves slowly enough, and the bacon would bring itself home. If we just let it, just let it keep pace. We could jog for a couple minutes and take a normal walking pace and just let it sort of trail behind us. It'd be cute.
I like where your head's at, but by the time we got back home and slaughtered it and got back on the road, we would have lost a day, and we really can't afford that. We want to get back before someone raids the Pokemon gym. Not to mention that with the way the dunes work, by the time we got back, there's no guarantee that the Poké Ball factory would even be there.
Okay. Who likes their bacon crispy?
Azrael raises his hand.
I like it chewy, but I'm probably a minority.
So do we have to roll for initiative, or can Lux get this started by giving a command to Fennekin?
You can get it started.
Fennekin, Flame Charge. That is a 5. It is a stab move against a Pokemon that typically has very weak physical defenses, since most of its defenses are in special attack.
That's true, but this is not a typical Grumpig. This is a cursed Grumpig.
Still a 5 roll. I don't know what that means.
Yeah, so this is, the situation has gone from controlled to risky, and that means you do it, but there's a consequence. You suffer harm, a complication occurs, you have reduced effect, you end up in a desperate position. So which would you like to, which of those would you like to happen?
I'll take reduced effect, like the flame charge happens and Fennekin makes contact, but it kind of bounces off and leaves only a few small scorch marks.
Yeah, so Fennekin is surrounded by a halo of silvery fire and runs at this Grumpig and slams into it, and the Grumpig doesn't really even seem to notice. It has continued its trip towards you, and Fennekin didn't quite bounce off, but aside from a few scorched hairs along its flank, it seems to have done nothing.
We need help from the inside. Mr. Lev, you have to work your way up to this thing's brain and break it.
Yeah, I think Mr. Lev has gone to the farm upstate, and Lux is going to grab Chomper and start pushing him in a direction at a 90-degree angle away from the direction that the Grumpig is going, and call out to Fennekin, Fennekin, come, we're getting out of here.
Well, that was fun.
Yeah, so if you're going, continuing along the direction you had been going before, then it would be more like a 45-degree angle. So, he's basically, coming towards you, but at an angle. And if you guys want to keep going straight, then you would need to, get somewhat close to it, but this thing is moving slow enough that you can probably just, take it at a brisk walk and be okay.
Kind of figured, but as we walk, Lux is going to say to the other two, be careful, it's a psychic type. Just because it can't reach you doesn't mean that it can't fuck you up some other way.
Alright, now how is Fennekin going to get away from right next to this thing?
Fennekin knows how to attack and evade. As soon as she hit and bounced off, she would have just kept going and running and just circling back towards Lux.
Okay, roll raid for Fennekin real quick.
Okay, that's a 4.
For a 4, once again, you do it, but there's a consequence. You suffer harm, a complication occurs, you have reduced effect, or you end up in a desperate position. I'm actually going to use my GM's discretion here. Yeah, and I'm going to say that Fennekin suffers a harm. It is a level 2 harm, bitten leg, as this Grumpig snaps at it as it runs past and takes a little chunk out of its hind leg.
Guys, I think maybe we should move on at this point.
Do we want to shove a blade into this thing?
I could bite it, but that'd fuck the meat up. Assuming we still want to eat it.
Like, how quick have I seen this thing move? Like, we're talking, like, feet per minute here.
A slow walk, but, like, not a spry young person slow walk. We're talking like a grandpa slow walk.
Azrael's totally okay with just avoiding this thing and keep going.
Lux is looking at this thing with just this dark anger in her eyes, like she wants to go over there and fight it herself. But after a minute, she takes a deep breath and sighs, "You're right. Let's go, Fennekin. You okay, girl?"
Yeah, so Fennekin has limped back to you, and she seems to want to snuggle after that little encounter.
And she gets a snuggle.
Her antenna's actually drooping.
Yeah, you get some Fennekin blood on you.
You did good, kid. Here's hoping some of those potion things are at the Poké Ball factory.
So, onward. I think we've lost enough time here. I think we should keep moving.
As we walk, Lux is actually going to pick up Fennekin and put her on her shoulder so that Fennekin doesn't have to walk on the bitten leg. And as they go, she is going to have Fennekin get in touch with Delmai's Ridge to let Ginormous know that this thing is out here and to come and get it, either for food or just to eliminate it as a threat, either way.
That little encounter happened briefly before you got to the road, and then from then on, it was a fairly short trip down into Team Yell territory. Would you guys like to stop over with Team Yell before you head out into the dunes?
Lux is actually going to turn to the other two and say, "I can have Fennekin send a message ahead of us to let them know we're coming."
If the little guy's fit enough to do that, yeah, go ahead.
Fennekin looks at Chomper indignantly and hops off Lux's shoulder, walks over and gives him like a little nibble on the ankle.
Kid, I get it.
If you had rolled a little bit worse on your psychic roll for Fennekin to make contact with it, then that nip would not have been a nip. It would have been trying to eat Azrael.
Fennekin's a little haughty and she likes to act like one of the tough kids, but she's not going to attack anyone. Not seriously.
Yeah, I know, but the thing that's wrong with the Grumpig is psychically contagious.
Something to watch out for, I suppose. Yeah, let's let Team Yell know we're coming so they can get some of whatever the hell they've got out of their system.
Lux scoops Fennekin back up and puts her on her shoulder and tells her to send a message to Team Yell. We don't want to just show up unannounced. We're not the Mighty Nine after all.
So you guys start heading out into the dunes. This is a part of the wasteland where the buildings of a smaller city than the Boneyards, but still fairly large, are periodically revealed and concealed by vast, ever-blowing sandstorms, which excavate and bury these buildings periodically. As you guys are approaching the Team Yell camp, you guys see... You remember those motorcyclists from Fury Road? Imagine that, like, with all the jumps and flips and shit and stuff. Only instead of motorbikes, they're just regular bikes, and they're pedaling like mad. These people have bandoliers of Pokeballs strapped across their chests, and every single one of them has at least one lacrosse stick stuck into a holder on their bikes. And in a very impressive display, these riders jump over the dunes, separating you from wherever they came from, and come screeching to a well-synchronized stop, showering each of you in a small wave of sand, and one of them kicks over his kickstand and gets off the bike and approaches you and says, "Well, hey there."
You've been practicing.
"Oh, thanks for noticing.
Well, it shows. You got some real height out there.
So, what brings you to this neck of the woods? It's something to do with that old Poké Ball factory, I assume."
Right in one. We're here to see what we can salvage. And since it's in your territory, we figured it would only be polite to come by and say hello.
Well, I really appreciate that. Always happy to see our friends from down at Delmice Ridge. Gotta say, we sent some of the lads in to have a look around, and there was some real weird characters hanging around, so we figured it's better to leave it to them like you that's a bit more of scrappy types. But, you know, if you want to try to come up with some sort of share alike thing for some of us going in with you, we can definitely have a talk about that.
What kind of characters were at the factory? Like humans, Pokemon?
Oh, yes. Yeah, some real weird types, like, sort of like you, except not lizard man so much as, metal and robots and magnets and electricity and stuff.
Are there mutants?
Yeah, mutants.
If they have the abilities of Pokemon and the guile of people to match, that'd be a problem, especially if they don't like us intruding on their territory.
All Azrael is doing is looking down at his weapons, which are all metal and handheld, and thinking about fighting something that has electrical abilities.
I could bite a lot of shit, but I don't want to break my teeth against metal.
Things could go poorly for me.
Fennekin is probably our best bet. Speaking of, we can talk about the escort in, but you wouldn't happen to have any medicine for Fennekin, would you?
Oh no, poor Fennekin! Who could have done such a thing?
Yeah, you know, bacon makes people and Pokemon do weird things. We could give you the full story around the campfire.
Tell you what, why don't you come back to camp with us? It's getting a little bit late, and it's not always a good idea to go wandering about the desert at night. The sandstorms can get kind of hard to see without the light out, so how about you come back to camp with us, stay the night, tell that story, and we'll get you going in the morning there.
It's your territory, we'll follow your lead.
Alright, so you guys head back to the Team Yell camp, which is, those like military-style tents with metal frames and heavy canvas fabric. It's a lot of those, very like sort of semi-nomadic, easy to break down and move. And there are quite a lot of Pokemon here, more even than you keep at Delmice Ridge. At least relative to the population, Team Yell is probably about the same population as Delmice Ridge, a little bit bigger, but they have a lot more Pokemon. There's just about at least one Pokemon for every person here, and you can see some of the youngsters practicing throwing rocks painted to look like Pokeballs with their lacrosse sticks. As you enter the camp, the leader of Team Yell, who is the man you've been talking to, whose name is Jeffrediah Yell. We're gonna be lighting the campfire up in a couple of hours here, and if you want to join us, then we'd certainly be happy to have you, and if not, then, well, I understand that you might want to keep your strength for tomorrow and get early to bed and early to rise, as my old man used to say.
Well, I do want to make sure that Fennekin is settled down and getting taken care of, but after that, I'd be happy to join you.
I got nothing better to do.
As always, appreciate the warm welcome.
So they bring you guys, or rather they bring Fennekin some poutine with sliced citrus berries on it. She gobbles it down and then goes to sleep. Vlad, you can knock that harm from a level 2 harm down to a level 1 harm. And you guys have a little bit of free time before story hour.
Do we see any mill tank around?
Make a fortune roll.
No, that was a Running Man reference. But Lux is going to basically check out the camp, see how the Pokemon are doing, how Team Yell interacts with them, and how they, how they train.
Yeah, so you look around the Team Yell camp. You see that there's quite a lot more fighting going on than would be tolerated around Delmice Ridge. Both Pokemon and fist fights. But it all seems to be fairly good-spirited. The Pokemon are well taken care of afterwards, and the fistfights tend to end in a handshake more often than a medic visit. Put it this way, there are very few straight noses in the Team Yell camp. It's an environment you can respect, even if it's not for you and yours.
Oh, no. Lux would be totally down for this. If Fennekin were up for it, they would both be down there scrapping as well. She's not going to get into a random fist fight just because she's there, but a, friendly trainer-on-trainer bout, that's totally up her alley. Pokemon don't get stronger sitting at home.
Okay. Are Azrael or Chomper up to anything?
I think Chomper would just be shadowing Lux.
I feel like Azrael might join in on a fist fight.
Alright, go ahead and roll rec for me then.
So that's a 4.
So, with a 4, you are hanging out with the lads that brought you into the camp. You get on to the topic of Ponyta with some member of Team Yell. Come the morning, you won't be able to remember exactly what you were discussing. He might have been for them and you were against them, or maybe the other way around. But it ends with you getting a nice little Team Yell nose job.
Nice.
So you are going to take the level 1 harm, broken nose. Actually, you know what? I am going to give you 1 rep with Team Yell for that. Sorry, 1 status. Rep is something different. So, after your various and sundry adventures and or misadventures with Team Yell, the sloppers start slinging their hash, whereby hash I mean poutine, and probably maple syrup.
This sounds like a very cheese and sweets heavy diet.
What part of how I've introduced these people leads you to expect literally anything else?
Absolutely nothing, but I think you've just stumbled upon the reason why Lux hasn't run away and joined Team Yell. It's just that she can't handle the diet for too long.
So yeah, you guys go and get your food and settle in next to the fire, and it is time for story hour with the party.
So I believe we promised you a story. Is there anyone in particular you want to hear?
Yeah, well, whatever you think will entertain the company. You could tell us how Fennekin got that little nip taken out of her, or something about how you became a crocodile man, if that's not too sensitive, or why your arms is all cut up, or just whatever you think will entertain us for a bit.
Well, I can start off by giving you the story of how Fennekin got that little bite taken out of her. You know Lev the farmer who raises the Grumpig? I'm sure you bought from him. Well, we were going past his farm on our way here, and as we're going by, we see this huge pile of bones, and the whole house is crazy. Blood splatters everywhere. And in the middle of the farm, we see this Grumpig, the biggest, meanest, ugliest looking grunt pig I've ever seen. It had tusks the size of Azrael's sword, and it's charging around in the middle of the bend, just rampaging. And then it sees us. So I look over at Fennekin and I say, "Go, you know what to do." Fennekin barely gives me a growl before she takes off with this huge wave of flame rising up behind her as she charges at this thing. She hits it full force, but then she bounces right off, barely doing any damage to it, but catching the whole farmhouse on fire.
There's a gasp from the crowd.
I know, half the farmhouse is on fire, and this pig didn't even move until Fennekin hit it right on. But that's when it decides it wants to go and it starts attacking Fennekin and gets that bite out of her leg. So we all jump in. Azrael's dueling its tusks with his sword. Chomper's trying to slash it with that gnarly claw of his, and they get it distracted just long enough for me to reach in and get Fennekin out. And let me tell you, she didn't want to go. She wanted to stay there and keep fighting this thing. And that's when I noticed Lev Dalev's face sticking out of that side of this thing, like he's inside and pressing his face up against the side of its stomach.
No, it was worse than that. You're misremembering. The grunt pig, it stuck its tongue out, but at the tip of the tongue was the farmer's face. And it was mouthing words. I think it was saying, "Kill me."
Any other time, we would have burned it, killed it, and eaten it. But you know what? It's just way too much food to eat in one sitting.
This is definitely how I remember it.
Exactly. Just about the craziest thing to happen to us in, well, only like a week, but it's still impressive.
Great start to this journey.
Go ahead and roll me 3d6 and let me know what the highest is.
6.
Okay, great. You get +1 status with Team Yell as well.
Dope.
I thought you were going to say like a standing ovation.
I mean, not a standing ovation. You get like they start moshing and it somehow turns into a fist fight. Yeah, they absolutely loved it.
A coffee shop poetry read, and instead of snapping fingers, they slap lacrosse sticks.
Yeah. Yeah, and someone actually accidentally, like, jabbed someone next to them in the ear with a lacrosse stick, and that turned into a fist fight.
All the fist fights.
Yeah, eventually, order somehow gets restored to the camp, and whoever wants to spin the next yarn can go right ahead.
Chomper.
Hi everyone, my name's Chomper. Hi Chomper. So, you may be curious about this, as Chomper motions to his face. It ain't a happy story. I wasn't always Chomper. I won't bother getting too deep into my past, but I had a name, parents. I was a normal guy once. That changed when, Chomper sort of looks over to Lux.
Before he ran into my father and one of his associates. This was years ago, before we met you guys even.
Lux's dearest Daddy-O and his friends, they took me into a lab somewhere out in the wastes. I couldn't tell you where it is nowadays or if it's been covered by the sands, but they did shit to me. I'm not sure what entirely. Some of it was surgery, a lot of it was genetic infusion, and some of it was just torture. It, as you can see, it fucked me up. It made me part, I guess, Pokemon in some ways. What Lux has told me, I'm either part water type or part poison. I don't know. He's maybe part Totodile or something like that. Part Salazzle. I couldn't say.
I'd say Totodile and a few of the nastier poison types, like the Viper. That's what I figure for the face and the venom at least.
Yeah, stuff like that, the lizardy kind. Yeah, and there was Lux's dad's, basically the prize student in his class, some asshole called Pitt. He was the warden of this place. He tried keeping me and all the other experiments in line. He, and Chopper brings up the air quotes, educated me, taught me to read, write in the worst possible ways. As in, if I fucked up, I get a whip to the back. I guess they never really explained it to me, but the best I could figure, they wanted to see how well Pokemon Effication or Poké Infusion or whatever the fuck, how well it affected human cognition. This went on for, God, I don't know, years. It was fucking hell, I'll have you know it. I don't know how I got out of there with some semblance of sanity, but eventually I was able to get out. There was an explosion at the lab or something. The cages opened and I got the fuck out of there. I ran into the wastes and never looked back. I ended up at what today is home at Delmai's Ridge. It wasn't always run by the folks I run with right now, with Lux and Az and Ginormous and company. It was a cult of some kind. A bunch of guys who seemed to venerate Pokemon as the ultimate survivors or something just had set up shop there. And when I got there, they had a trouble integrating me into their, trying to work out my position into their belief system. Am I a divinity or being some sort of person Pokemon thing? Am I an abomination? Was I some fool who flew too close to the sun and got burned? They settled on the latter. So they caged me up and sort of paraded me around the place every once in a while, just letting the supplicants know that this is what happens to people who think they're as good as Pokemon.
Alright, so roll 2d6 and tell me what the highest is.
The highest of those two is a 5.
Yeah, so with 5, you definitely get through to Team Yell. There must be like a little mini dust storm blowing through here, because there are a lot of people getting something in their eye. Yeah, you're gonna go ahead and get +1, whatever it is, as well.
Alrighty, +1 rep with Team Yell.
As Chomper looks towards Azrael, the faces of Team Yell turn to him expectantly, as this seems like a cue for him to take over the story.
So you want to know how I got these scars? Some of you, not all of you, but some of you know that I've been looking for a man named Tycho, but you don't know why. A long time ago, when my mother and I were trekking across this hellscape, we were attacked by Tycho. I had a Pokemon, a Scyther named Nariko, who tried to protect us. Tycho managed to injure my mother with a blade that had some kind of poison on it that has left her sick. And he also dealt a killing blow to Nariko. Somehow, Nariko did manage to injure him enough that he ran off, but I had to drag my mother to the nearest piece of civilization, and I found the group that now lives at Delmai's Ridge and joined them and agreed to help them in return for medicine for my mother. Now, I use this sword, and then Azrael will pull the blade off his back.
Shink.
This blade of Nariko to take down anybody that hurts me or mine, and gestures to Chomper and Lux.
Chopper waves.
For every one of them that I take down, I add a mark. It's not a long story, but it's got a lot of meaning.
What is your sway?
I have nothing in sway.
Okay, then roll 2d6, take higher.
5.
You definitely get some nods of respect from Team Yell. You do not get another rep with them, But later in the evening, when you are starting to head to bed, you do hear some of the lads talking about your story and how we should probably track down this Tycho fellow and stick a lacrosse stick somewhere uncomfortable.
Nice.
Lux takes a stick from beside the fire and starts poking into the coals.
So I guess that leaves it up to me to bring everyone together and make us into a cohesive whole, yeah?
Well, some of you know parts of the story, but I don't think we've ever told you the whole thing at once. Back before we even met you guys from Team Yell, we used to live in a different place. Basically a fortress. Secure, well-provisioned, and back then, my father was in charge of the group. Ginormous was his right-hand man back then. He and I fought a lot because, I'm into Pokemon and he's more into genetic engineering. Plus there's a whole thing with my name. For the most part, we thought everything was okay. Until one day when he lured pretty much everybody out and locked the doors behind us so that we couldn't get back in. That's when we found out what he was really about. Genetic engineering, manipulation, torture. Even before he set us out, he was already working on things like Chopper. Already had people he was torturing to see just how far he could push them, what he could make them into.
We wandered the wastelands for a while. It wasn't easy. A lot of us died. We kept looking for a place to settle down, and eventually we found Delmai's Ridge. Of course, back then, it was infested with a cult. If we had any other choice, we would have just moved on. But the truth was we didn't. We were too close to dying as it was. We were gonna try and storm the place and probably die in the process. Except, right before that, Azrael walked into the camp. He was carrying his mother on his back. He was nearly dead from exhaustion, and she was nearly dead from whatever the fuck it was Tycho did to her. We wanted to help, but the truth was, we couldn't afford the supplies. We had sick people of our own to take care of. So, Azrael and Ginormous made a deal. Azrael would go into the ridge alone and scout out the place. See if there was any way that we could get in without having to fight all the way through. And in exchange, we would take care of his mother. Honestly, I thought it was a bit of a suicide mission. But that was before I knew what Azrael could do when he didn't want to be seen. While he was scouting out the place, Azrael found Chomper, and they made another deal. Chomper would get a place with us if he helped us take the ridge. And that's just about where you rowdy bastards come into the story. Lux gestures expansively, taking in all of Team Yell. I was doing a scouting run myself when I came upon you guys. You didn't like the cultists any more than we did, and you wanted access to the water. So between all that, we came up with a little plan for ourselves. First, Azrael helped Chomper escape, and he used his abilities to poison most of the cultists. Then you mangy pack of wild houndowers started making as much noise as you could outside to lure out everyone who could still stand up. Then Ginormous, me, and all the other fighters that we had took them in the rear and slaughtered as many of them as we could get our hands on. I might have felt bad for them, except I saw what their idea of worshipping Pokemon entailed. I don't like to think about it, but fortunately, I don't have to. Because ever since then, we've all been good friends, and those Arceus damn cultists are still out there wandering the wastes. I like what we've got. I like that when I look around, I don't see a bunch of assholes trying to get one up on each other. I like what we're building.
Vlad, you have the highest sway for the group, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so go ahead and give me another 3d6. Let me know the highest and if you get a crit.
6, no crit. Close, but...
As you are describing the part Team Yell took in the battle, they start rattling their lacrosse sticks again, instead of the disorganized, almost applause-like way they were knocking them together earlier. This time it's perfectly synchronized, and it almost sounds like marching footsteps as the sticks clack together. Each of you take another +1 rep, and Vlad, also go ahead and mark 1 down for the faction.
Before we turn in, Lux makes sure to grab a beer, mead, whatever it is that we're drinking, probably moonshine. Grab a glass for each for herself and for Chomper, and make sure to have a drink, just the 3 of them. And it's just like a quiet thing. She gets a glass, she goes over to sit by them, hands each of them their glasses, and a little moment.
Here's to putting the past behind us.
Not even just like putting the past behind it, just like we're here, we're together, this is what we do, that kind of thing.
I revamped Azrael's vice to pleasure, but it's like soft physical touch, like from a woman. I'm not necessarily talking like sex, but just like everything else he does is hard. The dude cuts himself. His whole thing is like, I need to murder this guy. So like, maybe he wants to be the little spoon every once in a while.
I could always say that sometimes Fennekin goes over and snuggles up next to Az, psychic types and sensitivity and all that.
I was thinking they've been drinking, so we'd find a lady member of Team Yell.
All right. Anything else you guys would like to do before we go into the engagement?
If there's anything I could do to get rid of my level 1 harm, or have somebody look at my busted schnoz.
Before she turns in, Lux does check on Fennekin just to make sure that she's, okay, sleeping comfortably, hasn't woken up in the middle of the night and started a fight with one of the other Pokemon, because that's totally a thing she would do.
Yeah, so make a fortune roll for me.
5.
You know how you can tell when dogs are dreaming? Fennekin is clearly dreaming about eating something, chewing something. You're not sure exactly, but she seems to have some munchies going on.
Seeing this, Lux will reach down and start stroking Fennekin's fur, kind of like you stroke a baby's head when they're, fidgeting in their sleep. See if the contact helps at all.
Okay, make another fortune roll real quick.
That is a 6.
Okay, yeah, she settles right down and sleeps through the night, as far as you can tell.
Hello there, class. We've finally reached a point in the recordings that I was able to procure that have more than merely audio. We actually have a picture of what the dunes look like. A seemingly endless sea of rolling sand, bright orange against a cold blue sky with nary a cloud. The sands ever shifting according to the winds, dunes changing their position, revealing ruins of a world past, our world, and just as often and just as quickly, covering them up once again. The ruins our protagonists are about to explore would be recognizable to anyone in our world. The wide rectangular roof of a factory. But no factory I have ever seen would be allowed to be in such a dilapidated state, the red-bricked outer walls leached of its color and crumbling. What little of the building pokes above the sand is but a memory of industry and what was. It produces nothing. It merely houses treasures for those who might come to claim them. Atop the wide rectangle, there appears to be a single entryway down into the building. The door is gone, and in the light, it appears to be little more than a black hole into nothing at all. You can expect a few more tidbits like this here and there. Whoever made these records was kind enough to include them, so I felt it only right to pass them along to you.
Early the next morning, you set out with Team Yell. Team Yell escorts you to where the old Poké Ball factory is. You politely decline their help and begin looking around the building as you are scouting. So what is your point of attack on this? Are you just gonna, roll up through the front door, smash everything between you and the Pokeballs, and then run?
Yeah, I feel like we do a scouting run on the outside of the building just so that we can look before we leap, basically.
So, yep, the engagement roll for this is just straight 1d6.
Okay, 6.
Alright, you are in a controlled position when the action starts.
Chopper can handle the hunt roll. He has 2 pips in hunt after all.
Azrael would prowl around the outside of the building and try and find the easiest way onto the roof of the building.
And, Lux?
Lux is going to take Fennekin around the perimeter of the building and see if they can see or otherwise sense anything.
Adam, go ahead and roll me hunt. Azrael, give me a prowl. And Vlad, I feel like that would also be a hunt? Or maybe a read.
I'll do read since this is more of an assessment kind of thing than looking for clues or anything like that.
Alright, Chopper got a 4.
Azrael got a 5.
Lux is a 5.
Okay, so with those rolls, you are in control positions. So you all hesitate, withdraw, and try a different approach, or else do it with a minor consequence. A minor complication occurs, you have reduced effect, you suffer lesser harm, or you end up in a risky position.
Lux will withdraw and try a different approach. Basically, try circling around the place to see if she can come at it from a different angle.
Okay. That sounds like a prowl, but we'll get back to that after the other two.
Chopper will take a minor complication.
Okay, and you were just doing a circuit looking for ways in, right?
Yes.
I am actually going to use GM Fiat to put you into a risky position instead. I'm going to say that you find an promising-looking entrance to the top floor of this factory, and as you are stepping closer to get a better look, the dune turns out to be less stable than you thought, and you end up sliding down and end up in a slightly more exposed position right next to the factory entrance than you had expected.
I was going to go for a minor complication as well.
For your minor complication, you see a dust cloud getting kicked up in the distance. It neither looks like Team Yell's bikes, nor does it look like a sandstorm. Instead, it looks more like some burrowing Pokemon out in the dunes. They do not look like they're headed in your direction immediately, but they will probably turn that way if you guys do anything foolish or roll badly.
Okay. So am I on the roof, or did I locate a way onto the roof?
Yes, you did. You climb up on the roof just in time to see Chomper half sliding, half tumbling down to the base of the factory.
I will, I guess, run over to where I saw Chomper tumbling and see if he's okay, or see if I can see where he fell to.
Yeah, I mean, you can see where he fell to easily enough.
Maybe try and get Lux's attention.
As Chomper's sliding, he catches a glimpse of Azrael and just gives a little okay sign and before face planting into the sand.
You have a prowl roll to make, I believe.
Well, this'll make you happy. This is disadvantage, and I got a 1 and a 3, so 1.
Yay. Azrael, as you're watching Chomper slide down this dune, you see Lux also cresting this dune, but she falls prey to the same dune as Chomper, and in a much less dignified fashion, tumbles down it and ends up sprawled at Chomper's feet.
Just to himself. That's why you leave that to the professionals.
Coincidentally, at the bottom of the dune, Lux is looking up at Chomper as she stands up and says, "Yeah, I need to take lessons in sneaking."
Yeah, maybe we should do a group seminar back at the ridge.
There's now 2 of you standing in front of a large smashed window, and 1 of you on the roof, presumably cackling at them.
I mean, I'm going to look for a way in from the roof.
there is what looked like it used to be a roof access door with a convenient staircase included.
Yeah, let's poke my head down.
I think that's just a fortune roll. Just 1d6.
That is a 6.
So you look down into the stairwell, and on the top floor landing, where the other two would need to go to get into the stairwell, unless they joined you on the roof, you see something waiting for them that looks like a Poké Ball with a face drawn on it, except it also has some horseshoe magnets glued to it.
Yeah, I'll try and move to the edge of the roof and get the attention of Lux and Chomper and try and, motion that they should come to the roof with me.
Lux will take the direction.
So will Chomper.
Make a fortune roll, just to see how easy it is to get onto said roof. Anyone.
5.
With a 5, you make it onto the roof without much problem. Now you are, all three of you, looking down onto this unholy abomination.
I'll back away from the hole a little bit, quietly look at Chomper and Lux. What do you think?
Shit. We need to take a few steps back. That thing's a fucking bomb.
Oh, wonderful. From what Yell told us, I figured these be human Pokemon hybrids, like whatever the hell I am, but yeah, just more Pokemon smushed together.
This is only the first thing we've seen.
There might be humanoid mutants later on, but for now, that's basically a bomb on a magnetic trigger down there. Anything that gets close to that thing with any metal in it and it doesn't want you to be there, it goes boom.
So how do we want to do this? Lure him out? Detonate him? Or just sneak around?
Detonating it could bring the whole building down on us. Sneaking past it might be our best option.
Are these things particularly perceptive? You would know better than any of us, Lux.
If this were just a Voltorb, I'd be a lot less worried. For them, we would only have to worry about actually making contact with it. But you see those Magnemite fused to it? That means that it's going to be able to sense metal. From our knives and tools and maybe even the iron in our blood. I'm starting to think that Magnemite just like fusing with things. We saw those Golurk the other day with Magnemite fused to their backs.
It's a big problem for me.
You mean your blade? Nah, that's a scyther arm. It's made out of chitin, not metal. It just looks shiny.
Well, if that's the case, then let's fucking sneak past this bitch. Azrael looks at Lux. Will it definitely explode if something hits it?
Guaranteed. Something hits it, it goes off. It senses metal, it goes off. It's honestly kind of amazing these things have survived up to this point.
If you two stand on the back side of the opening and Azrael lures it out without touching it, somehow lures it out of there so you two can hop down, and I can get off the roof and run around to where you two were and come into the building that way.
Possibly, but I think it's time to let the Pokemon trainer tame some Pokemon. I have a better chance of getting that thing to come out without exploding than either one of you. And if it doesn't work, you can just jump down in the hole while it's blowing up in my face.
Fair enough.
Alright.
I'll move to the far side of the opening so that as it comes up the steps, hopefully it won't see me.
Okay.
Lux will give Chomper and Azrael a chance to get into position before she goes and stands in front of the opening.
So you are going to have to trade position for effect here, meaning you will be rolling desperate, because this is not normally a thing you could do, but you will be able to roll, but there is the chance that this will break fairly seriously bad if you do a bad roll.
Still a better idea than trying to outrun an explosion. Everybody in position?
Righto.
Yep, Azrael nods.
Lux walks out into sight of the electrode, and she kind of crouches down so that she's closer to its level, and she reaches into one of her pockets and pulls out some of the Pokemon berries that she carries with her and holds it out to the Pokemon. First, shaking it and showing it what it is, giving it a sniff, and then putting it down on the ground and stepping back like half a step to give it some room.
Go ahead and roll.
And I'm rolling sway. Dope. That is a 6.
Yeah, so the unholy abomination looks at you. It kind of cocks its head to the side, where by head I mean its entire body aside from, like, the magnets.
Oh no, its face can move. It has like a weird animated face that can move inside the thing. It's horrifying.
Okay, I wish I did not know that. But yeah, it pulls away from the door just enough for it to gobble up the berry, and then the magnets do pull it back to the door. But yeah, it seems pacified. It does seem like as long as you don't, like, kick it on your way past, it'll probably let you through.
Okay, we have a new friend. We can get past.
Azrael rolls to kick it.
Okay, roll wreck.
Now it's sneak past.
As we go past it down the stairs, Lux is going to give it a quick pat on the head and lean over to Chomper. What about that one? You didn't even give it the finger.
Well, I mean, we seem to be going diplomatically here. That seems like a bad idea. I don't want to burn bridges like that just so quickly. I mean, maybe on the way out.
Hey, no one's telling you to commit to anything, but it's something to think about, you know? Warm up to the idea.
I mean, I'll probably do it when we get out of here, but I'll give it 2 if it decides to blow up. Just, you know, the last thing it sees.
As you're engulfed in flames. Okay.
The depths of the Poké Ball factory are inky, pierced here and there only by broken windows and cracks not big enough to allow a person to pass through. The darkness groans with the sound of creaking metal as you pass through it. What were once office spaces are now nothing but derelict rooms occupied by sad, lonely pieces of furniture. Further down, on the actual production floor, between machines designed to assemble Pokeballs, there stands the shape of a man. Except no man born of woman ever bore such a pearlescent sheen, nor did he have pink and blue crystals jutting out at joints and at seemingly random places all throughout its body. Tiny black pupils stare out of white hexagons in what passes for eyes in that misshapen head. With her mouth hanging open, Lux turns to Chomper and says, "How do you feel about being a diplomat?"
I could try?
Another episode down, and still no one has remembered the timer in the bottom of their home. Oh well, they're dealing with new concerns, such as whatever psychic malady is currently afflicting Lux's Fennekin. All that very much aside, how on earth did Team Yell, of all things, not only survive the apocalypse, but survived apparently unchanged? The buggers are pretty much the same as they are now, just with more lacrosse sticks. Truly the world is a wider and madder place than I could have credited. Either way, I would like to thank Monstercat for providing the music for this episode. You can check them out at monstercat.com, where all the music used in this episode is available for royalty-free licensing. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, comment, and subscribe, as it would make it easier for other researchers to find us and aid us in building a timeline of the forthcoming apocalypse. If you would like to support this podcast and My Flight from Justice, you can do so at patreon.com/Pokemon Primeval, where you will find membership levels offering all sorts of benefits, including altering the space-time continuum so that you too can survive the apocalypse, and even have Arceus GM a game session for you and your friends. Goodbye for now, and I will see you next time on Apocalypse Now, where our adventure continues.